guys, it's here and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another video reading Hermitcraft Retribution. This will be the last video. We are reading chapter 24 and 25. And yeah, then we will move on to the next story, which will happen soon, depending on how long it takes for me to write the next story and the next thing and all that stuff. You know, I'm currently writing it right now. Just trying to figure out where I want to go, which direction I want to go. But yeah, if you haven't read the other parts, be sure to do so. And if you do like these videos, feel free to subscribe. And tune in for the next one, whenever that might be. Yeah. Chapter 24. Apologies for any background noise you might be hearing. I'd ask why you were here. The man continued, his eyes locking onto the hermit after looking between the boy and the woman. And both shuddered. The coldness of his voice felt like icicles pricking his skin. But I don't think I need to. Campbell has a feeling someone might come looking for her. A cold smile crawled on the man's face as his eyebrow raised, looking over at the woman and Julius. Julius's expression was stone still, his eyes narrow, as if he was expecting something. Perhaps he did. What do you want, Kyle? The man, Kyle, chuckled, pulling out a sword from its hidden sheath, almost camouflaged in a uniform. The sword glinted a purple hue, gleaming iron sparkled in the lamplight. You did very well, Julius. Perhaps I'll let you and your mother go free if you surrender your new friends here. No, Julius said defiantly. The only one surrendering would be you. Kyle laughed, shaking his head as the second man pulled out a device similar to a communicator. Backup is on his way, sir. Perfect. I have them right where I want them anyway. Kyle mused, glancing to his fellow soldier with a triumphant smile. Mind taking the other end of the hall so they can't just run? Blake shouted, finishing the man's statement for him, grabbing Impulse by the arm before the group started to run down the hall. Both glanced back, seeing Julius struggling to keep up as the two men hurled pearls toward them. You can't outrun us forever, Kyle hollered back, the pearl smashing right behind Julius and Clara as the young man yelped. Impulse pulled himself out of Blake's grip, running back to the boy as he extended his sword just as the man lunged. Behind me! Impulse blocked the man's incoming sword, hearing Julius's yelp of surprise behind him. The man's face was closer now, didn't wearing a sneer. How noble, defending the same boy who killed your friend. The man narrowed his eyes. I hear you're not much of a fighter either. Quite valiant, if not stupid, for trying to fight me. Impulse! Blake warned as the pearl shattered behind the hermit. Impulse dove out of the way as the other soldier attempted to charge from behind, tackling Kyle instead as both men fell to the floor. Impulse stumbled to his feet as the boy pulled him away from the men, tangling one another. We need to move. We can't outrun them, Impulse frowned, looking over at where Julius stood, now half carrying his mother. Not when she's at that state. Oh, you won't be running anywhere, Hermit. Kyle's voice said from behind him. Chill ran down the hermit's spine. It would be such a shame if I had to take you instead of your friend. Shame for you, maybe. Luke stepped in between the two men, Impulse and Blake. You're not going to take anyone today. Just admit it. And how are you going to stop us? The other soldier scoffed. Back up. We'll be here in a helicopter in under 3 minutes. You'll be overrun and outnumbered. Did you think you'd find it easy just to take one prisoner? This is a trap, Julius said solemnly, meeting Impulse's eyes with a hint of guilt in his expression. That's right, of course. We were hoping you'd come to your senses and find your mother and maybe bring one of your friends along, Kyle said smugly. Which you did quite wonderfully. He's trying to slow us down, Luke warned, looking over at Impulse. Can you get Clara and fly out of here before they arrive? What about you? Impulse swallowed. We'll be right behind you, Luke replied. You're what they want, not us. You sure about that, boy? Kyle snickered, Julius is a traitor, after all. We'd want to teach him quite a lesson for his disobedience. No, Claire murmured weakly, her bright blue eyes wide with terror. You're lying. He never worked for you. Julius winced, his eyes still watching the man warily. Impulse, I need to go. You can get some help for us at least. The boy walked forward, handing his mother over to the hermit. Impulse carefully steadied her, noticing she was resisting. Julius, no! You can't put yourself in danger like this. Can't lose you again. She insisted that Impulse started pulling her back, meeting Blake's eyes full of certainty and confidence. I have to make things right, Mom, Julia said calmly. I've made some mistakes. I wouldn't call them mistakes, boy, Giles sneered. You've done so much for Campa by enacting revenge. You even did it as I told you obediently. Julius shook his head, extending his sword as he stood in front of the hermit and Clara. You won't get what you're looking for today, Kyle. I guarantee that. Kyle snorted. You can't promise anything, boy. It's already too late. Is it? Impulse raised an eyebrow, pulling out his communicator, showing the man the screen. While he'd been trying to keep Clara back, he had alerted his friends to the incoming danger. Just then, there was a loud explosion outside as the earth shook. What's that? The other man asked, his eyes wide with horror. I think help just arrived, Impulse mused with a smile. Kyle's eyes narrowed, lifting his sword in one hand, a pearl in the other. Perhaps has, but not for you, Impulse. He threw the pearl and charged. Impulse turned, scooping Clara into his arms as he booked it down the hall as fast as he could. Hearing Julius shouting and warning behind him, Keep running! Don't look back! We can't leave them, Clara persisted, her eyes wide as she saw what was behind them. We have to go back. At least one of those boys has a very dangerous weapon, and I think they'll be fine, Impulse said calmly. How can you be so calm? My son and nephew are back there, she insisted. We've done this far more times than you know. Impulse smirked, flinching as a shadow flew over as Kyle appeared a moment later in front of him. Impulse veered down the left, through another hallway, startled by the man's appearance. You're heading for a dead end, Impulse. You've got nowhere else to run, and no one can save you now. Impulse made it to the end of the hall, turning toward the man, setting Clara against the wall for a moment, sent a mental message out into the chasm of his mind as he straightened. Pulling out his sword again, he stepped in front of the woman, his dark eyes narrowing as he studied the man. Kyle slowed to a walk when he realized the hermit was waiting for him, a cold smile on his face. Maybe that's what I want. Is it now? Kyle raised a suspicious eyebrow. You can't possibly think you can get out of this one. Like you didn't think I couldn't escape. I wouldn't be there to rescue Grian. Impulse raised an eyebrow. My intent wasn't to hurt him, merely to scare your friends from trying to intervene, the man snarled. Campbell's needed him alive. Grian doesn't know where his friends are. Impulse lifted his chin. Oh, that's not why we need him, Kyle sneered. Thanks to Gerald's help, we've narrowed it down significantly. Bait, Clara gasped from behind the hermit. You wanted him as bait. Good, just like you, darling, Kyle snickered as he nodded with triumph. If they really did care about their friend, they'd do anything to make sure nothing happened to him. We could just walk right in and take control like that. He snapped his fingers before shaking his head. He's got the hermits too. Did you ever consider that? Impulse asked calmly, seeing a couple of figures appearing in the hallway behind the man. No matter what Campbell thinks he can do, we'll always find a way to stop him. We don't give up. Neither do we. The man's eyes gleamed with flame as he lifted his sword. Just you dropped that sword, Hermit. I've got you right where I want you? So do I, Impulse replied, pulling up his other hand, holding a shield just as a ball of light sped down the hall, hitting the man square in the back as he screamed. The man fell to the hermit's feet as Impulse looked down at Kyle, who was writhing in pain, his back and shoulders on fire before they slowly snuffed themselves out. The man too, stilled, growing limp. Is he? Clara asked, her voice sounding dry. Impulse tossed aside his shield, kneeling to check the man. Barely, Impulse noted matter-of-factly. Should I finish the job? Tango's voice asked from down the hall. Impulse snapped his head up, seeing both Tango and Doc walking toward him. I'm glad you made it. Impulse smiled, rising to his feet, pocketing his sword as Tango put away his gas blaster. Served him right for trying to hurt my friends, Tango said confidently, his ruby red eyes moving toward Clara. So she's who we came for? Impulse nodded, looking over to the woman as she steadily pushed herself from the wall, her eyes wide, silent. Impulse looked back over at Tango. Are the boys okay? Yep, Doc said simply. The other one didn't stand a chance. I didn't even need to do any tricks to bring him down. The boys beat me to it. Impulse chuckled. Good. We should probably get going before Campo gets suspicious. What about him? Tango gestured to the man lying at Impulse's feet. I think Rose can find a secure place for him to recover and think about what he's done. Impulse said firmly, looking at the sound of more footsteps. Julius! Clara cried at her son when she saw him, stumbling as she tried to reach him. Julius bolted forward, catching her before she fell, as she pulled the boy into a hug. So proud of you. You were so brave. Thanks, Mom. Julius said softly, choked up as tears filled the boy's eyes. I'm just glad you're okay. What did that man mean? What did you do? She gazed into her son's eyes. I've hurt people. Julius looked away from his mother. I'll tell you everything when we get to safety. Safety? She frowned. More for the hermits than for us, really. Julius mused with a shrug. We can't stay here. It's already been too long. Impulse watched the two as Blink approached. Are you okay? Impulse nodded. I'm fine. He smiled gently at the boy as Luke met up with them. I'll tell you everything on the way. I know why Campo sent Kyle and Stuart after Green now. Blake frowned, furrowing his brow. Nothing good? Definitely not. Impulse replied. I'll need to let Sam and his aunt know as soon as possible. It's urgent enough. Blake smiled and looked over his shoulder. And when she get back so you can do that. Yes, please. Impulse sighed, tightening the straps of his light wings. I don't want to be here when Campo shows up. Chapter 25. Impulse opened the door to Jem's base, stepping into the main room, looking up to see Jem turning to look at him, standing in front of the window, a hopeful expression on her face. Did everything go well? She asked as Blake and Luke stepped inside as well. Yep, everyone made it out in one piece. Well, at least the good side, anyway. Actually, I'm changing it as we go. Did everything go well? She asked as Luke stepped inside as well. Yep, everyone made it out in one piece. Well, at least the good side, anyway. Luke mused with a nod. Clara's doing a little better after some healing. Julius took her to the tower. He wanted to give us some space. Oh, Jim looked back toward the window. It's good to know he found her. I don't think we would have gotten out of that without Tango and Doc pitching in when they did. Impulse admitted. Those portals came in handy, once again. Smile formed on her face. Where are they now? Back at Doc's, after Julius gave them some more notes he'd written about the headband and other gadgets. Impulse crossed the room to stand beside her. How's Scar doing? Has he woken up yet? A little better. She looked down at the floor. Green hasn't left his side. Eliza has been guarding the door for the last couple of hours. Is it okay if I go talk to him? Impulse asked warily, taking on his communicator. There's been an update. Her eyes widened. The others. They found him? Yeah, it's beginning close. Impulse frowned. Gerald's been doing a lot of work before his untimely demise. She nodded reluctantly. He's really good at sniffing us out. And it's good that he's gone, Luke said firmly, snapping his fingers. Do you want one of us to tell Rose and Sam about this? It'll save you time to talk to her Korean. Impulse nodded. It will. The sooner they know what's going on, the better. He headed to the stairs, returning the gadget to his pocket. I'd check in with your friends, too. Well, else Pearl's confident they're safe. Job. Yeah, Jem said hesitantly, with a weak smile, her eyes reluctantly glancing up at the hermit. I'm sure they're safe, though. Impulse tilted his head, putting his hand on the railing as he looked over at her. Is there something you weren't telling me? Pearl had an idea, she said slowly, as if choosing her words carefully, hesitated before shaking her head quickly. Go talk to Graham. I'll tell you later. Impulse frowned, but nodded. Julius might drop by if he needs anything. Don't worry about it. Jem beamed, but he could see the smile didn't match her eyes. He reached out to her mentally, feeling a sense of unease and dread coming off her, guarded and hesitant before he shook it off. He needed to talk to Green first. He felt the hermit needed to know what was going on, even if it wouldn't be easy. Impulse climbed the top of the stairs, finding Eliza, sure enough, leaning against the sleepover room door. She wasn't alone either. Caleb had joined her. The two of them in a discussion, and they stopped, looking up to see him approach. "How did the mission go?" Caleb asked. The boy looked a little scraped and bruised, his left arm wrapped in a sling. "We made it back in one piece," Impulse smiled meekly. "How about you? You took quite a fall." "I'll be okay," Caleb smiled weakly, looking the hermit up and down. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to talk to Green, if that's all right with you." Impulse lifted his chin, deciding to get to the point. "It's urgent." Eliza frowned. "Does it have anything to do with Steppy's sister?" Impulse looked over his shoulder reluctantly, checking to make sure no one was eavesdropping. "Maybe." Apparently, Gerald did a little bit of homework before Julius took him out. Eliza's face paled as she nodded. Caleb opening the door. "Green, can you come out here? Impulse wants to talk to you." "Okay." Green's small voice replied. The hermit heard the creak of a chair before Green appeared a moment later at the door. "I'm guessing things went well?" "Well enough," Impulse said simply. "Clara's safe, and the man who attacked you was apprehended." Green's eyes widened. "Really? How?" "Let's just say we pulled the same trick on him he tried on us." Impulse mused with a small smile before it slipped away. He glanced over his shoulder nervously. "Stuart wasn't there, though." "Oh," Green nodded, staring at his feet. "Is that all?" Impulse shook his head, gesturing for the hermit to follow. Seeing Caleb hesitate for a moment, as if debating whether or not he should follow. Even Eliza looked wary. We'll keep the door. We'll keep the door open, but I don't want to risk being overheard just yet." "What is it?" Green asked quietly, stepping into the room after the hermit. "Impulse, you're scaring me." "Before Gerald went to attack Scar, he apparently did some work on trying to find your friends," Impulse replied. He's been able to narrow it down significantly. Enough where Campbell wanted to capture you." "What?" Green gasped, his eyes wide as his face paled. "It explains why they tried to take you so secretly. They didn't want interference or for us to be able to find you." Impulse frowned. He didn't intend to hurt you, but he had no choice once Luke and Josh arrived with Caden. Green nodded slowly, looking back down at his feet at the floor. "Is everyone?" "Luke is letting Rose and Sam know as we speak." Impulse put a hand on the hermit's shoulder. "I hate giving Sam more bad news, though." Green nodded. "They're his friends, too, especially Nettie, Martin, and Jimmy." Impulse, "Well, if there's anything I could do to help, I will, okay? Sam won't let anything happen to them. Neither will their protectors." Green smiled meekly. "I believe that. Even if Campbell decides to attack without having me as bait, they'll still find a way." "Do you think so?" Impulse raised an eyebrow. Green sighed, his shoulders slumped. "I have to believe that. I don't want to imagine what would happen if... Tears filled Green's eyes as Impulse pulled him into a hug. "We'll find a way to stop this, I promise." "I miss them." The hermit's bottom lip quivered. "So long since... I haven't seen them since they moved." "Oh, Green," Impulse said softly, pulling him closer. "You'll see them again, I'm sure of it." Green sniffed, nodding with a weak smile. "I don't know how I could keep going like this, Impulse. All of this hiding, this fear, running for our lives. We need to stop this. All of it. I don't know if it's something that can be stopped alone," Impulse admitted calmly, pulling away. "But we can't give up. They surely won't." "Fortunately, we aren't." Green managed a larger smile, confidence sparking in his eyes. "You're right. I can't give up now. Not when we're so close. I'm here for you, buddy." Impulse nodded defiantly. "I made a promise this case, and I plan to keep it." "I know." Green grinned at the hermit. "Maybe we can see if Doc needs help with any revenge plot." "Maybe not revenge," Impulse pondered, looking toward the window. "Maybe more like justice. Retribution." Yeah, Retribution. Green nodded, following his friend's gaze. Do you think they're watching us? Knowing Campbell? Probably. Impulse shook his head, walking to the door. Hurting your friends or imprisoning them would fulfill his goal in hurting Rose, after all. Green nodded, putting a hand on the door frame. Well, it's a good thing they've got pretty good protectors, yes? Hopefully, Impulse nodded, biting the bottom of his lip. So long as there's no mole hidden among them. Green shuddered. Maybe that's how Gerald found them. Impulse closed his eyes. Let's just hope the man was wrong. Yeah. Green gave her... Yeah. Green gave the hermit a weak smile. There's a chance he isn't, though. Impulse matched the smile. So, what do you suppose we do next, G? Green met his gaze before looking back at the floor. I'll need some time to think about it. Once the car gets better. He looked up with a bright smile. No one would dare mess with us now after what our friends are capable of. Impulse laughed. You're right about that. I should probably see if there's anything I could do to help. And I'll keep Scar company, in case of nightmares, the hermit said reluctantly, stepping out into the hall. Thanks for telling me about this. Something you should know, Impulse replied. Even if it's a little scary. Well, that's an understatement. Green snorted, shaking his head. See you soon? Soon, Impulse stated, watching his friend disappear down the hall before following him. Seeing him disappear back into the layover room, Caleb stood by the door, giving the hermit a knowing smile. Eliza was nowhere to be seen, but the hermit assumed she'd be close, wanting to do what she could to help her new friends. And that, my friends, is the end of this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little book. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one, whenever that might be. Might be next week, it might be a month, I don't know. It depends on when I get this book done. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one.